Welcome to the Fee-for-Service Dentist Podcast. Dr. Sun Spira. Today, our guest, Dr. Laura Mach. She's going to talk a deep, intellectual, stimulating talk about fear, where it comes from, what it causes us to do, and more importantly, what it causes us to not do. Fascinating conversation. You're going to want to listen to this and stay awake and stay dialed in. She's got great advice, great conversation. She can be reached too if anybody has an interest in working with her. Again, our podcast is sponsored by Kettenbach. Kettenbach has a brand new product called Visalis Fill and Flow. It's a nano hybrid composite, highly filled at over 80%, highly polishable and very desirable aesthetically. It provides high durability and strength, making it ideal for anterior and posterior composites. It has a flex shade system, easy to pick, and it also has an opaque and a bleach shade. Remember, your costs are lower with Kettenbach, and it's available directly to your office with no middleman costs. To learn more or order, simply contact your local Kettenbach rep or call 877-532-2123. Or if you prefer, shop on their webpage. Again, Dr. Sonny Spira, Fee-for-Service Dentist Podcast. If you like it, share it with your friend. Click subscribe and share. Thank you all.
My name is Drew Burns, and I'm a part of a small group of dentists who believe something crazy. We believe the standard of care is just not good enough. We demand the best of ourselves and the best for our patients. We believe that the best way? No, the only way to practice dentistry is on our own terms. If you ask the dental consultants or the corporate CEOs, they tell you that what we're doing isn't smart, that fee-for-service dentistry is dead, and that the golden age of dentistry is over. Yet, while others focus on profits first, we focus on the patient first. And yet, our offices are some of the most profitable in the entire country because we invest in ourselves and we are doing things right. It's our name on the door and it's our reputation on the line. My name is Drew Burns and I am a fee-for-service dentist. This is the Fee-for-Service Dentist Podcast and these are our stories.
Welcome to the Fee-for-Service Dentist Podcast. Dr. Sonny Spira. Today, our special guest, she's always our special guest, Dr. Laura Mach. She reached out and said, hey, let's do a podcast. And we just were talking offline, and there's about 6 different lanes that we can go in. But today we're going to try to focus on fear and why it grips us, talk a little bit about the biology and etiology of it, and then how it affects, okay, if you're transitioning like Dr. Mach and Dr. Laura has, out of in-network to an all fee-for-service model. What are some of those impacts and stuff like that, as well as other impacts of fear? So let's welcome Dr. Laura. How are you today?
I'm excellent. Thank you so much for asking. It's practically fall here. How about there? Are you getting some changes?
We are, but it's hotter than blazes today. So we're like in an Indian summer, if I can still use that term without offending anyone. It's really hot. It's 90 degrees yesterday, today, and tomorrow probably. So
The future of fee-for-service dentistry is based in membership patients. If you need help starting your membership plan, or if your plan is too big for your team to manage, visit dentalmembershipdirect.com to set up your free membership growth solution demo with our team.
Yeah.
No, we're at 70 right now. So I'm like luxuriating in the cool.
That's where we usually are this time in September. We're just having this, and I think next week it rolls back to normal. We're recording this in early September for folks listening.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm good. And the practice is just marching along. It's been a year and 3 months-ish since we made the big change.
And when did your associate leave?
A year and 3 months ago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was all at once.
Okay, so that happened. You yourself, though, stayed out of network while she was still in network, right?
Yeah, I left about a year and a half before the practice, and we made the final change.
So you don't have any mixed signals in the office anymore. So tell us how it's going. It's a year and 3 months. How's it going?
We're all just having a really good time. We were just looking at our team agreements that we used to have, and like we all signed it. It was this contract of like, um, well, we promise to talk to each other if we have a problem, and we promise not to be toxic, and we promise it
No drama.
no drama. And we were looking at the agreements, and we were like, we don't need most of these anymore. Like everything is just so copacetic right now. Is that the right word? Yeah,
Yeah.
we're having a good time. There's not drama anymore. And between that and knowing that you're getting your full fee for every procedure that you do, like morale is up. It's good for the team too to see those lack of discounts, and to see the patients starting to just decide what is best for them instead of insurance-based decision making. So we're having a good time.
Have you changed your case presentation?
Yes.
Like first your part, but how about the systems and the delivery part must have changed dramatically.
Yes. So we've always been working towards being good at that, but we really have worked for the last year and a half on our ability to ask open-ended questions and to really get into the feelings that people have about their teeth. And I know that sounds kind of dorky,
Sure.
but we make decisions on the feeling side of our brain, not the logic side.
Right.
So getting to a patient's feelings, even if it's just talking about what they want their teeth to be like in 5 to 10 years, instead of saying, well, you need this and you need this. It's very effective for presenting expensive treatment plans without getting that kickback of like, you're pushing me towards this. It's fun. It's more fun to talk to, like, collaborate with your patients.
Well, you're not really pushing them, you're leading them, would you say?
I would say that, especially now, we got a scanner and we scan every patient, and we get that scanner out on the big giant screen, and we point at things and talk about things while we're, let me show you the problems that I see. I see this, this, and this. And we can make a plan, to help you maintain your goals, that kind of thing. It's fun.
Mm-hmm. It's a dialogue now. It's no longer a talk down. It's a two-way conversation.
Yes. And nobody leaves with a big giant 2MO, 3DO, 4 quads of root planning and scaling. Like, we don't do that kind of treatment planning where you just print out each individual procedure. That doesn't make any sense to patients.
Really?
Do you do that?
We typically do. Yeah, if we have a larger treatment plan, we'll present it, and then we will apply it, and then we'll go over it.
Yeah. No, we give them simpler, like a little half sheet with a tear off, like duplicate, that says at the top, we'll just put fillings or 2 crowns or BioClear refresh or whatever, and it'll just be the total cost of the treatment, any discounts, what they need to put down to schedule it, and what will be due on the day of service, and the rest of just gobbledygook to them anyway.
Our show is sponsored by our good friends at Medidenta. Medidenta has served the dental community since the 1940s with award-winning innovation and a large catalog of dental products in most facets of dentistry. I personally use several of their products and recommend them to anyone I can. They are a sponsor of the program and are offering 30% off. That's right, 30% off anything site-wide at Medidenta.com. Simply use the code FFSD30 at checkout and get your 30% instant savings. From CR-rated prophy angles, hygiene, high-speed handpieces, burr, endo, whitening, they more than have you covered. Their customer service is amazing, and they are willing to walk you through an order at any time. So if you have any questions, give them a call at 800-221-0000 800-221-0750. That number, 800-221-0750. Or send them an email at orders@medidenta.com and mention the fee-for-service dentistry group and get your discounts. So yes, we still review like a full treatment plan, and if we review it with a patient, we'll give it to them. The one thing that gets confusing is when you have multiple treatment plans.
Yep.
Then it's, I tell the patient, listen, I can print you 20 sheets here, but suffice it to say, let me give you an overall ballpark estimate here. Like I just did this yesterday, as a matter of fact. Patient has an upper denture, and he has 6 teeth on the bottom. His occlusion's destroyed. And we did it 3 years ago, and so I'm like, okay, so if we're going to do implants on the top for the denture, and then we can't do that without restoring the lower, so we're going to have to get this squared away. And your choices are implants and crowns, or implants and then snap-on partial on the bottom with crowns in front. So you can narrow it down from 6 different things to 3. And I said, here's your cost ball for this. Here's your cost ball for that. Which way do you want to go? Well, I'm really thinking this based on that. And it was a comfortable conversation. And then my dental assistant was able to finish things with a reasonable number
That's
of
amazing.
a finalized treatment plan versus bouncing all over the place. So it was a good experience. But sometimes it's hard because the patient is not ready to get there. So I don't just want to print stuff off just to quote CYA,
No, those don't go anywhere when you just print it off and say, call us when you're ready.
Yeah.
That you didn't clear up. Like there's so many things that patients don't understand about dental care, and they
Right.
need that. And it's wonderful that you have a team member who can coordinate that, because I don't know that everybody is lucky enough to have a knowledgeable team member who can do that.
Mm-hmm. Right. Okay. So let's talk now about our main topic, fear. Something you are quite knowledgeable about and understand. Do you want to start with the etiology? Or do you want to talk about what?
Well, okay. So as a background for the listeners, we talked last time, we like made a list of different reasons why people put off going fee for service. So
Yes.
right at the top was that people are scared. The owners are scared, and we understand why. We've done it, but there's other things that we put off doing when we're scared as owners, right?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
What else?
Confrontation. Talking to an employee about a situation that was out of bounds, let's say, or borderline, right?
Yeah. Or how about they have that toxic employee who knows everything about how the office runs, and we don't let them go because we're afraid of what will happen if they're gone.
Mm-hmm.
And so we put up with drama, office drama or whatever, or we're afraid everyone's going to switch away from us because that one hygienist who knows everybody in town will just take all the patients with her. Right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. That's happened to me recently. We had a state-run clinic open up, and that hygienist we've had for 12 years. She left, and it's a very small. This is a 2 traffic light town. This is a small town.
Oh.
So, and it's if you play golf, it's about a 7-iron away from our office. So it's close, and it is what it is.
Yeah.
So,
but the reason I was thinking about talking about this with you today is because sometimes I just like to dream about what would my practice be like if I wasn't being led by that yucky fear feeling in my gut.
Sure.
What if I was dreaming? What if I was looking at it from abundance? What if I just wasn't scared? What would I do differently? But there's a problem because the fear actually does stop us from taking action many times. And so I thought it might be really helpful to just like what I call coach splain what fear is to the listeners, because
Okay.
if you understand how it works, it's easier to work around it and not feel it anymore.
Okay. Do you want to touch on it? Because you mentioned it. You hinted at scarcity. You talked about abundance, the different mindsets. Do you want to give any background there, or do you just want to go right into it?
Well, sure. So we're talking about two different mindsets here, right? The scarcity on one end would be, oh my gosh, am I going to run out of money? Or is my practice going to fail? That kind of thing where you're grasping, right? And what I want people to notice is that when they put themselves in that mindset, how it changes how they want to act, because that's key to what I'm going to explain. Whereas if we're over here in abundance and we're like, everybody needs my work, mine is amazing. I have worked so hard and I have put my heart and soul into this practice. My patients are lucky, and I'm going to offer them the best care.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll just let them see if they can decide. Like, how do we feel we want to act when we're over there in that abundance feeling, right? But
Mm-hmm.
the thing is that once we understand how our brain works, we understand that we're automatically more in this scarcity mode. Like, that's where our brain wants us to be. And that's what I want to explain, because it's so much easier to get out of it once you understand why it's even in your body in the first place.
And it's a mindset. It's not just a feeling. It's truly a mindset. So,
That's correct. Yes, it all goes together. So, and this is cognitive behavioral theory, which is what we use in the model, which is my main life coaching tool. You have the data that comes into your brain. Think of yourself as an organism. Nature
mm-hmm.
made you. You're made of proteins and fats, connective tissue, all this stuff. And then you have these different senses that tell you what is happening in the environment around you. You can see, you can hear, you can taste, you can smell. And what your brain does is it filters all of that information and tells you, is this information good for survival or bad for survival? Because that is what nature wants from you. It wants you to live and pass along your genes and support those little people that you made. That's literally your nature's goal for you. Okay. So keeping that in mind, we're bringing in this information, and our thoughts are the mindset that you just talked about. When we've got the fear mindset over here, we've got the abundance mindset over here, and how we think affects how we feel. And guess what? Our emotions are also a part of nature. If you think about it from a biological standpoint, your emotions are simply messages from your nervous system and your hormones. That's it. They're just like, okay, release a little dopamine. Okay, make them scared or make them stressed. And it changes what you want to do. And emotion is a behavioral cue that tells you how to act. And that is true, not just for humans. I'll always look at animal examples of that. Like when a dog is embarrassed that they misbehaved, and they act in that certain way when they know they're ashamed because they did something bad. Or a mama bear wanting to protect her cubs. She brings in that information. She processes that it means her cubs are in danger, and she's pissed. And she's going to do what she has to protect those babies. So we are not different. And our brain wants us safe. And so when we take that human brain and that system of thoughts, feelings, and actions, and we plug it into modern day dentistry, it's like 99% of the time, we are going to be miserable unless we're really monitoring what we are thinking in our minds, what is happening with our mindset. And are we in charge, or is the nature part of our brain in charge? If the nature part of our brain is in charge, we're going to be scared of the insurance companies, we're going to be scared of our employees, and we're going to be afraid of our patients as well. So if anyone out here is feeling that way right now, just know you are in extremely good company. And I've certainly felt it. I know how this works, and I've felt it. Have you felt it, Sonny?
Oh yeah.
Can you think of any decisions that you've ever made out of fear because you just stayed in that scared part of your brain and you lost out on something?
Ooh, can I think of some? I'd have to take some time to think about. I'm sure I've made my share of those. Sure.
I can think of hundreds of thousands of dollars that I've written off, maybe millions, maybe millions.
Oh yeah, we're gonna go
Things like
dental.
that.
I'm thinking of did I buy the wrong, like I buy the wrong item, impulse things or what have you.
Mhm. Or like people that I knew weren't a good fit in the team, but I just put up with it because my scarcity brain over here was like, well, hygienists are really hard to hire,
Mhm.
or she knows everything about the front office, so you can't let her go because then what would you do?
Yeah, that is the situation with especially when hygienists and dental assistants in the work field are so scarce. So yeah, so you well, it's funny I just used the word scarce, but you're gonna probably think a little bit differently, and it's such a for me it's a hard way to do it. I've just never thought in that sense, but the reality of it is supply and demand. The demand is there, and the supply is diminished or disappeared in some situations. It's an unusual work environment right now.
It is an unusual work environment, but when you stay over here in nature's version of how you look at reality, can you see how it is less fun and it stops you from making the decisions that you really intend to make because you're scared?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's
Very much so. Yeah.
yeah. So I thought we might take a little bit of time to really hash out how to recognize when you're in that state and how to like work your way out of it so that you're more in like intentional, abundance minded dental badass.
Right.
Mhm.
Hmm. Okay.
Okay. So let's pretend you've talked to so many people who have taken this jump, right?
I have.
hmm And tell me, what are the things that your people tell you that they are afraid of? They're like, Doc, I really want to do this. I'm ready, but I just, and then fill in the blank. Like, what happened
Well, they
specifically?
fear that their practice is going to deteriorate, that they're going to lose a lot of patients. That's always the first thought. They're going to lose a lot of revenue, lose a lot of patients.
I'm going to lose a lot of
Um,
patience.
and I think also the one thing that someone else brought up that it never hit me, but it does now. Like I'm going to end up losing some team because that's the resultant of losing the patients and losing the revenue. I won't be able to keep my team of 7 or 8 happy. I'm going to have to reduce to 6. I'm going to have to shrink. A few of those thoughts, is and it's. I guess I don't know if you want to say fear of failure is a fair way to use it, is a fair stretch on this situation, but I think that's a big component of it. You
Mhm.
know,
Yeah, I think that if someone were to say to me in a coaching session, well, I might have to lay somebody off,
right? Exactly.
right? Then
That's yeah. Hmm.
I would ask them, and why is that bad? And they might say, well, I hired them. So it's my job to make sure that I help them provide for their family. And if we continue to ask that person, why is that bad? Why is that bad? Then at the very bottom of it is, then everyone will know that I failed, or people will
Yeah.
be disappointed in me. Okay.
Yeah. The self-esteem. That's now you're getting to the doctor's self-image or self-esteem. I've failed. I
Yes.
failed in my mission to care for my people,
Yes.
both of them, both my team and my patients.
Yes. And if you think about it, that fear that they might fail, that fear was a thought habit that started before they even owned a practice. It
Mm-hmm.
might have even been before they started dental school, because they wanted to be a dentist, which meant that they had to get straight A's, and they told everyone they wanted to be a dentist, and they were trying and trying and trying. And there was this fear that people might see that they failed. Or maybe their parents put it upon them that they were supposed to go to dental school, or they were supposed to do this, that, or the other. Or they're already married and they have children. They've given up, made a lot of sacrifices in order to go or whatnot. And so these habits start quietly, naturally. And all that happens is our circumstances change, but our habit of thinking, oh my gosh, I might fail, is deep in our bones.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And every time we think it, we get that little jab of that yucky feeling in our gut. And that part is the physical sensation that is our emotion.
Mm-hmm.
And then once we feel it, you can tell me how you act when you're afraid. For me, when I'm afraid, I want to hide and I don't take any action at all.
Now, did you ask me how I feel when I feel that way?
How do you act when you feel
How
it?
do I act?
Yeah. Especially in regards to
Ooh,
your practice. Are you
how do I
proactive?
act? How do I act when I'm, yeah, I would say, would you say threatened or would you just say scared? What would the word be?
Well, we're talking about, I wouldn't say threaten. I would say, as you are worried about failing,
Yeah.
as your brain is processing through those thought habits, and you're like
Mm-hmm.
picturing your bank account going to zero, or the
Yeah.
bank is calling you and they're
Sure.
like, why haven't you paid us, or rent, or the
Mhm.
employees, or whatever, like picturing those worst case scenarios. And then you have that yucky feeling in your gut. And then what do you do when you're feeling that way?
Well, for me, I would make sure in my mind that I have a whole bunch of contingency backup plans.
Okay. So you're
So,
like, let's keep myself safe by, let's build a
yeah.
wall around the front of this cave and let's keep it safe.
Mhm. Yeah,
So,
I would say like to me, like and give that scenario. Okay, that's bad. Well, maybe I have an outside work that I can start to work at a nursing home, or I can do some other thing. I mean, I would say, what can I do? Maybe I'll work later. I'll stay, extend hours. How can I creatively solve it without
build some
the
safety.
impactful? Yeah, yeah. Bring more. Yes, put more safety nets in place,
Hmm.
and I'm willing to sacrifice and do what I got to do. So that would be, I guess that would be my mindset would be, okay, you know, this is not going as we had planned, and then we're going to need to create some more layers of protection, I guess you'd say, right?
And would you agree with me that the way modern dentistry is set up right now, those knee-jerk reactions that we would make as we
Yeah.
were feeling afraid might actually be in the best interest of the insurance companies instead of our practices?
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
It's really fascinating. Like insurance companies, and they have a lot of money. They can spend money on industrial engineers and psychology people who are like, how can we communicate this the best way? Where we're like, oh yeah, we have your best interest at heart, but the underlying message is you're in trouble without us.
Yeah, the verbiage and the coaxing, or the, what would you say, the coding that they put on the words, and the
Yes.
dressing that
Yeah.
they
Or
that
they'll
they
send you a letter and they'll be like, did you know that you do buildups 25% more than all of your peers?
Yeah, I mean, it's so funny. Like I got a letter. I had a surgical procedure, and they gave me oxycodone. Now, I didn't fill the prescription. I didn't take the prescription. Fortunately, I didn't need to, but I was like, no, I was dead set against it. Well, I got a letter from the insurance company telling me about oxycodone and all these horror stories, and I was like, are they really trying to do? I mean, like, it was such a jaundiced view I have now. Immediately, like,
Yeah.
what's in it for them? Like.
Uh-huh.
So anyway, I want to write back and say, if you'll notice that the prescription was not filled or picked up, So anyway,
Oh, I want to
yeah,
give you an example of that too. Back in the day, I remember my husband at the time worked at FedEx and we got dental insurance for the first time. And they gave us this pamphlet, like a trifold. And on the
sure.
front of it was using your dental insurance. And then it was a picture of three sharp instruments sitting on a tray. It was like a
There you
needle,
go.
sailor, and explorer. And it was like, oh, that wasn't subtle at all. But think about how um that this is connected, right? Like insurance companies, they got money, they got knowledge, they understand, they have these little messages, and the messages come and they poke that part of our brain that is defensive of our organism. And that's called the amygdala. Do you remember amygdala?
Yes, I do.
Major brain.
Well, think about this. Let's say, because this happened in our community, right? So let's say you have a community where everybody is an independent practitioner and they all have their own fee schedules and they're all independent of insurances. Well, the insurance company comes in and they start to tell you that you need to sign up because your friend down the street is going to sign up. And if they sign up, then the patients that you have, they're all going to go down there because it's going to be more affordable for them, right? So they live on and they prey on your fear and anxieties.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And isn't that so helpful to see, especially as we're looking at that our brain has been processing this information in
Mhm.
sort of a primitive way, not because there's something wrong with us, but because that's just what brains do. They have so much to process. They can't
Sure.
sit and think really contemplatively about everything that's happening in this day and age. And when we
Mhm.
need to think about our patients and our leadership. And so when it comes to this like fear-based stuff, it happens like that. Okay. And once that happens, then our brain, our amygdala, which is known to catastrophize, is taking our brain and our feelings on a roller coaster. Okay. So when we talk about life coaching, we talk about training ourselves to recognize that ache in our gut, that yucky, fearful feeling, and go, oh, I see I'm feeling afraid again. What am I telling myself that is making me feel afraid? And it's a look inward at what the brain has been doing. Because unlike the dog and the bear, as humans, we can think about our own thoughts. That is called metacognition. And when we think about what we are thinking, we've separated ourselves from our brain's function and realize that we are not our brain. And even if our brain has a tendency to want us to stay in fear, we don't have to. We can recognize that we're thinking fearful thoughts and we can change our perspective. Okay. So then we recognize the thing that we're thinking, which is I might fail. And we go, how else can I think about this situation? What makes sense? It has to be something that we believe. And my clients and I we comb through this and we go, well, how do we want to feel? What would be a feeling that would help us act like the leader we intend to act? And a lot of times people will say something like optimistic, powerful, confident, ready. It's different for each person, but you choose that feeling that you would like to feel. And then you find a belief or a thought that nurtures that feeling. You can actually change how you feel. Now, your brain will still pull you back. It will pull you back because it's its natural tendency. But the more you practice awareness and having a thought ready to help you feel a new way, the more you can act like you wanted to in the first place. And so this is what we do in coaching is I've helped scores of women do this, whether it's, like we said, dropping the insurance or letting that one team member go, or just talking to them, just setting them down and going, hey, I want
Right.
you to do this one thing differently because
Right. Right.
yeah. Yeah. And so anyway, this is a system that works really well. And if people want to hear more about how we do it, they can also check out my other podcast.
So let's make a specific example out of this then. Okay.
Sure. Yeah.
So I am there's a gal who's experiencing this right now because she went out of network, and now like this month, this is September, she noticed like her schedule emptied out, and
Mhm.
so she's like, "Oh, did I make did I make the mistake?" So she's immediately ready to flip the switch,
Yes.
like, and she's looking for some input and some help. Why you want to describe maybe what might be going on through her
Yes.
mental processes, and then some suggestions on how
Mhm.
to reprogram,
Yeah,
get better data in.
absolutely. And so we're going to talk like in composite language. So would have to guess exactly what's happening in her mind. But you and I have both talked to so many dentists going through this. So we're going to project just a little bit. Okay.
Sure. Yep.
So for the first thing that we would do is we would go, okay, what is the data actually bringing in? What are the facts? Okay. And we would separate that out. And the fact of the situation for her might be 20% reduction in booked appointments. Or sometimes we'll just make it even less.
So
Well,
let's say 50% of her schedule is missing.
sure. Okay. Absolutely. Yeah. Or I don't see as many colored blocks on my schedule as I used to.
Okay.
'Cause I don't know about you, but like when I see the colored blocks full, I'm like, I'm safe. This is a good day. I have teeth to drill on. Okay, so 50% reduction. That is the data. It's immovable and it's neutral because it doesn't necessarily mean it's bad depending on what's in those appointments. Are you with me?
I'm with you.
Okay. But then scarcity brain comes and it's like, oh shit, I don't know if we're going to be okay.
Right.
Maybe I made a mistake.
Hmm.
You think about the dog who realized that they made a mistake and then think about, well, we have to guess what's in her gut, but it's probably either fear or shame, right? And then the fear or shame is going to have her, like you said, building contingency plans. And most of the time, with dental practice owners, what we want to see with contingency plans is things that create a feeling of safety. So, seeing an increase in demand, seeing more new patients, seeing more colored blocks on the schedule. These are the things. So she goes, well, how can I see more colored blocks on the schedule? And takes that fearful feeling and just runs with that in ways to protect herself from this unknown danger. So actually, she's not in any danger, right? There's no lion chasing her. We're not in a war right now, but
Hmm.
her body is making her feel that way because these systems are ancient. Okay.
Hmm.
So if she were my client, that's the first thing that we would do is we would just look at what her brain did and we would accept it and be okay with the fact that the brain was just trying to keep us safe. And then we would go, let's take this fact. Let's take this 50% reduction in appointments, September versus August. And let's ask ourselves, the fact is there, what do we want to create for our practice right now? And this is a creative time for clients to really fantasize and visualize about the part that they really want. And
Hmm.
a client might say to me, well, I just want to give my patients the very best care. And I don't want to be a victim of the insurance companies anymore, or something like that. And we'll go, okay, yeah. What does that look like in your actions? And they creatively brainstorm how they want to act. So that might include for her, I stick with my original plan and we work on scripting and customer service while we have this temporary lull in patients. Or I look at my spreadsheets and I actually confirm, yes, I have enough money, or no, I don't. And I make sure I have a line of credit set up just in case during this lull while I'm rebuilding my practice, I have a pillow of savings. Or I look at my marketing and I decide, who am I talking to? I really lean into things that I didn't have time to do when I was on the treadmill drilling teeth for a discount. Okay, and then we make a list of how she wants to act during this time with this reduction in patients. And then we say, okay, what emotion would help you to take those actions? Because it's not fear, is it? We need to get you out of fear so that you can take these new actions. And then we really brainstorm about that. What feeling would make me want to sit down and look at my marketing? Sit down and actually look at those numbers so that I have facts instead of a scary monster in the closet, this scary feeling that, oh, I'm running out of money. Okay, so maybe it's curiosity. Maybe it's optimism. Maybe it's like, I'm done. I'm done with that. I don't want to do it anymore. So it's like a determination. And she chooses that feeling, what would make her do the things. And then after that, we just choose a thought that's something that she believes and creates it. So the thought might be, I know that there was going to be a reduction. This is part of the process. Or this practice is mine and I'm going to lead it the way I choose, not the way other people want me to. Or I'm creating a new future for me and my family. Something like that.
Well, I think the most important thing that everybody's told me that's successfully done this is that the mindset is a cannot go back, like a burn the boats.
Yeah.
And there is no going back. So that is not an option. Once that option's off the table, I think mentally, like in this scenario where I sense, I mean, the practitioners clearly said, I think I made a mistake, I'm going to go back, versus there's no way I'm going back.
Yes.
It changes then your decision making. And I think if you don't have that mindset, you're not going to do it.
There's no way I'm going back is a very good thought, as long as it's something that the person believes and is behind. But it's great because it's like, well, I'm not going backwards. So what's forward? What does this look like? And we're looking at that. And for me, there's no way I'm going back creates a feeling of determination. And once you're determined, then you can take those actions we talked about instead of running back to them, running back to the discounts and the treadmill.
I agree. I agree. What are some of the other areas in talking about fear being such a, I want to call it a roadblock, but I think such an impediment to a person's, well, you've talked a little bit about their health, their well-being and stuff like that, but what are some of the other impediments that something like that causes, like fear causes? What?
Are we talking about just practices or are we talking about our life?
Well, I think it's wide open, right? What are some of the other things? We're talking a little, I mean, I kind of brought, an example to talk specifically about that, but what are some of the other challenges that you're going to see as a dentist in day-to-day life that fear is going to become that, elephant in the room sometimes?
Well, I see a lot of practitioners who think that they can't learn how to do something new, like place implants or, go to that COIS or that Dawson continuum, or you're just elevating the level of the care that they offer. They'll say, well, I'm not special like the other dentists, so I can't go fee for service. Instead of, how can I become that specialized dentist? It's, I can't. Okay, so that's one example. Putting up with toxic, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Putting up with toxic relationships, whether it's a marriage or maybe a codependent relationship with a parent or an in-law or whatever. There's a lot of times we put up with being treated in a way we don't want to because we're afraid of what would happen if we set a boundary. Or we'll try to set a boundary, but then the person will cross it and we'll put up with it.
Is there anything, any merit to the adage, playing the victim? Does that come into play here at all?
Yeah, because if you feel like a victim, you
Mhm.
act like a victim. I see that a lot with women who've been taught that it's their job to make sure everybody feels good around
Mhm.
them. And that's how they start to measure their worth.
Mhm.
Maybe in their 11 or 12 or
Mhm.
14, they're maybe even younger. They're measuring, is everybody happy with me? And then it's like, well, everybody else wanted me to do this thing, so I did it. And now I'm the victim, you know, and then you end up acting like a victim.
Well, don't, I mean, to me, it seems like when you do that, you then can color in your entire background to fit your reality that you've created, whether it's real or not, right?
Absolutely. This is another thing about brains, Sunny. Brains love to be right. They love to be right. They love to believe that they're right more than they actually want to be right. And so
Mhm.
once we've settled into a belief, we continuously look for proof that what we believe is correct.
That's in a very nicely worded, but I couldn't spit out. That's exactly the sentiment that I'm trying to say.
And so we
Yeah.
can get stuck in all kinds of unhealthy habits, which our brain then reinforces, whether it's with an insurance company or a spouse or whatever. We get into that unhealthy habit and we just lean into it because we're like, yep, it's true.
So what you're talking about then is more empowerment then, right? To get beyond that interference.
Well, yeah, because if you're open to the fact that what you currently are practicing is wrong, but that if you are willing to look at it and learn something new, that you will be better off. You've transcended your brain's desire to be correct and feel safe and gone to a new level of like, I am ready to learn this now. Okay, so
Mhm.
I can go to that COIS continuum. I can say no to the PTA who keeps asking me to do things. I can decide this based on what I want instead of what everybody else wants me to do.
Okay. All right, we're going to wrap up in a short amount of time, but I know that you've got a few more things that you want to recover. Let's cover them.
I feel like we covered it. Actually, it's really is. It's about that awareness that we talked about and choosing a new perspective. And I like putting it in that terms of scarcity and abundance because those are buzzwords that everybody kind of understands right now. And if anybody wants help with that, they can reach out to me because I have some free resources and then I have coaching for redirecting that brain to things that are more intentional, more like how you want to feel and act.
I'm going to give you one more scenario, and
Okay.
this will kind of, I think we'll finish up with this. So okay, so I'm a solo practitioner dentist, and I have a a hygienist. Not only use hygienist. Let's say a front desk administration person, business person,
Mhm.
who, whenever I come to interact with her, she's fake and phony, and she has a kind of a happiness air. But the feedback that I get, the patients, the input is she's the my way, the highway. She's a kind of a tyrant in her domain. I can't get people that will work happily alongside of her. But
Mhm.
I've been with this person for 15 years, and I'm feeling that I want to do some things, and I feel I'm getting held back.
Mhm.
What would be some of your advice to the doc in that scenario, or something along that line?
The first thing that we do with that type of thing is we assess whether that employee is really truly willing to follow our leadership or not.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is a problem of systems and lack of clarity, or is this a problem of an attitude that we cannot improve? And I will.
So what you're talking about really is you got to get the diagnosis.
Correct. What is the problem here? Is she not feeling safe? Does she not know what to do? Does she not know what I expect of her? Or does she know what she chooses not to follow? There's a completely different sets of actions in that situation, right? Just very briefly, if it's an attitude problem, and we've established that already, then we know that our problem is internal because we're keeping her around for fear-based reasons and she's actually hurting our practice. Okay, so it's find the fear, decide if we want to continue to believe it. If we don't, find a new way to look at it and prepare for the ejection button. But if it's lack of clarity, then it's okay. Do I need some leadership training to help me be very clear with this employee about exactly what I want? And then she gets in line.
So you know where I'm going, right? Because you get these Facebook speed dating minutes, right? Yeah. But no, they want hey, I want give me a letter, give me a phrase, give me 5 seconds and it'll solve it. But I think, it's unfair because it's not a back and forth in most of them, right? And if you say you just articulated it beautifully, which is to me, what we do every day, we should be doing every day. Find the diagnosis, find the source, find the cause, then create your treatment plan, right? So if the cause is this, then it's a systems problem. If your cause is that, it's an attitude or, it's a personality situation. So, that's pretty crystal clear to me. It requires some, not really soul searching, but it requires a little digging. You got to get to it.
It's absolutely soul searching. If you think you can be a leader of a dental practice and not be attuned to your emotion, enjoy that roller coaster because that's where you're going to be.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I'm sorry. Yes. I agree.
Yeah. But with this particular situation, I would say a lot of people are going to be stuck in fear that they can't make a change. Either they're like, well, my dad hired her 30 years ago. Yeah. Or my
patients know her, patients love her,
patients love her, or whatever it is. I don't know all the things she does. What will I do when she's gone? This is staying over here in the scarcity brain. And you have to get yourself out of that before you're ready to take action.
I agree. Well, I appreciate you very much. This was really a thought-provoking exercise. And well, I had to be on my toes with you today. That's for sure. So very good stuff as always. So anybody listening, if they want to reach out to Dr. Laura Mach, the easiest way to get in touch with you is through your website, email, which one?
Loveyourpractice.net.
Loveyourpractice.net. And like she said, she has some free resources as well as she has some coaching services available.
And my podcast is on there too, which is also called Love Your Practice.
Love Your Practice Podcast.
And Spotify. Yeah.
There we go. We love it. Co-branding. It's great stuff. Right? Excellent.
This has been great.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to the Fee-for-Service Dentist Podcast. If you would like to share your fee-for-service story, please fill out our contact form at ffsdentistry.com. Also, be sure to join our Fee-for-Service Dentistry Facebook group. For help starting your dental membership plan, visit dentalmembershipdirect.com and membershipmastercourse.com. Finally, for help with in-house financing, visit dentalfinancingdirect.com. And don't forget, your story is what you make of it. This is your name on the door and your reputation on the line. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you next time.